But then my father took the kids, very good. They got each a bicycle, and I took my mother's bicycle. Then the four of us went on bicycle trips.
Nice.
And we were not far from the North Sea, maybe an hour by bike. And then my dad always went to get eel. They caught them by hand, eel and flounder. So he says, that's where I'm going to take the kids. I says, well, can you swim there? No. I said, oh God! I said, there's a river that goes through the North Sea. In other words, the shrimp boats could come in there, and they had poles standing there to tell the ships how to come in. And they came in towards the dikes.
Yeah.
And when they came in, and they had ebb tide, then all the water would disappear, right? Not all of it. There's still plenty of water left, but I says, and you know they had ground there, when you stepped on it, it was like quicksand.
Ooh, yeah.
If you were alone by yourself, that was dangerous. Yeah. You couldn't get out.
Yeah.
So we were on the grass standing, and my father was in the water. And the sides of the river, they had all these big blocks of cement, right? And between the cement was maybe that much room. And between that cement, my father would go with his hand. And this hand was crippled from the war. And he would get an eel out. But first he had to get a crab out, a big crab, get him out. And then he goes in by his hand. And they're slippery. The eels are so slippery.
Wow.
And he had a way of catching. Sometimes there's 2 and 3 eels in there. And he would throw them on land.
Wow.
We caught about, I think, 22 eels and about 40 flounder.
Wow.
So the kids will never forget that.
Yeah.
And we went into the North Sea. By ebb tide, we could go in. But it's so dangerous because the water does not, go back. It just sickens. No, it goes back. And then when it comes back, it comes out from the earth. So what happens? You can't see nothing afterwards. The rivers, they all look alike.
Yeah.
You couldn't tell deep spots anymore, see?
Yeah.
But my father knew that place so well. And when we came out of catching all those eels, we came out where the land ends, and we walked in further, and we walked into this river, and you feel with the hands, and all of a sudden you're in a big hole. You go under. But anyhow, you feel, and all of a sudden it flutters under your hand. That's where the flounder is. Whoops, you throw them out. And that's what the kids loved.
Wow.
Herbie to this day said, I never would have seen all those things if he hadn't gone young.
Nice.
So, yeah. And then one day, my father said, boy, he got old, and they put him inside to work on a desk, you know.
Yeah.
And we had to take the post office. We had an extra room downstairs that used to be a bedroom. They made a post office out of it. We had to give that to the government.
Really?
Yeah, and we had to take soldiers in too.
Wow.
Erica said that to me. So one day they sent him a guy from the Nazis, and this guy came with a big police dog, and they brought him by car, and he came in, and he sat down at the desk, not by my father. My father was over here against the wall. So there he sat, and the police dog was on the floor. He watched my father, and he was not a nice guy. My father and my mother had to feed him, and then my father said, that's it, I'm not taking this crap anymore, somebody watching me in the house. And he went, instead of the bigger guys over the small towns that were there before Bremerhaven. Bremerhaven was the next seat for the post office that went over my father. And the biggest one was Bremen. That was another hour away from.
Yeah.
Okay, so since since I had the car, he got his friend who could drive the car. He says, bring me to, no, he didn't have a car then, I'm lying. No, he took the train, went to Bremen. And he comes in, and there's a young guy in Nazi uniform. One moment, Herr Turner. When you go in there and greet the gentleman, you have to greet him like this, and Heil Hitler, you had to go, I had to be like this, right? Mm-hmm. My father says, forget it, he says, I know better than you do. So he went in, and as he opened the door, the big shot who was sitting at the table said, close that damn door, close it. My father knew then he had a friend.
Yeah.
So they talked, and from that time on, since my father went to the big shot instead of the little guy, he had no more trouble.
Really?
And when the Nazis talked to him, and they wanted him to make a member, the others said, no, you can't trust him. Can't trust him. And that saved his life.
Really?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
You had told us a story before about where he got a phone call one time, right? From his friend at the pub at the other train station saying that the Nazis were coming to get him or something. Right?
Oh, he was an, this was his friend who had a bar with a dance floor and everything, right?
Yeah.
And he loved my father. The two got along great. And thank God we had a telephone, because the post office was there. That saved his life. The friend called him up and he says, Fidi, get out of the house. And we had land across the railroad station that was ours.
Wow.
With a place where the kids could play ball and everything, right? So he took a blanket, he took a pillow, and he went across the railroad station and to his land and slept outside.
Wow.
They came to my mother. And they knocked on the door. They said, Mrs. Turner, open the door. Mom didn't move. Mrs. Turner, we're the government. Then she thought, well, I better. No, they didn't. She didn't open the door. They broke it down. And they had to pay for that. They broke it. My mother wouldn't let them in. She said, no, I don't know those guys.
Yeah.
They can tell me anything.
Yeah.
She said, no, and they broke it down, and they had to pay for that. Well, she said, my husband's not here. I don't know where he is. And they didn't believe her. They waited, I think, an hour in her house. And then they left. They saw that he wasn't there. Then we had around our garden a hawthorn fence. Beautiful. They bloom white or pink. Mm-hmm. It was in white. It was a beautiful high fence. One day they took a jeep, the Nazis, and they ran it down. They had to replace it.
Oh.
Well, my father said that fence took years.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. I never get that back. I want a wooden fence. They had to put a wooden fence there.
Wow.
He got away with that. He got away. My father, I think I'm like my father in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say, the heck with you, I'll do it anyhow,
But I guess I don't understand, why were they coming for him? What was the...
Because they knew he wasn't a Nazi.
Got it.
You see, they knew he wasn't a Nazi. So what happened? He never did anything that would make him look bad in front of the Nazis. Yeah. He never did. And that saved his life too.
Yeah.
So, but when they said they didn't trust him, I thought to myself, yeah, that's true, that's Opa. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, yeah, but that happened to him. And his cousin Turner, another Turner, had a bar, like also a dance floor and everything. But he was finished with his round, so he went in and had a schnapps with a beer, right? Schnapps, whoops. And sits there and they're telling jokes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden somebody went out, said, Heil Hitler. That was it. They took him in the next day.
Really?